Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am very grateful to have you here. Sorry, I just put my dentures back in. But no, I am extremely grateful to have you here. Gratitude can be a very, very powerful thing. And that's something that I've been realizing a lot lately. That just the simplest expression of gratitude to somebody really goes a long way in their life. And I heard something the other day that really really kind of hit home with me, and that is a narcissist cannot express genuine gratitude. You might get, a slight thank you, and then change the subject, or, a slight thank you, and then somehow it just doesn't last. It's it's like, okay, thank you, but let's focus back on me again, and when I heard that, that really hit home with me, because I've been used to that. I've had a lot of people in my life that it just never seemed to be enough. It was one of those that I'm like, they'd get completely upset with me an hour later, and I just kind of went, did you just completely forget about what I just did for you? And oh man, it tore down my ego. It tore me down so much. Just that constant feeling of it never being enough. And that's something that I actually had to learn from. And I started realizing actually recently that when I do something, I need to do it for myself. I had when my ex and I were together, I remember one day I felt like dressing up. I put on makeup, I put on some really nice undergarments, and after running around for the day, we came home, and he was just like, well, I'm just not really feeling, being intimate, basically. And I was just like, okay. And he goes, well, I know you got all dressed up and everything. And I was like, no, honey, I dressed up for me, not for you. It was one of those things that I wanted to feel sexy. I wanted to feel, good. And so I dressed up, But the key point is, I did it for me. Now, I know it can be very hard to do things for yourself sometimes, especially for narcissistic abuse survivors. We are taught from that abuse that doing anything for ourselves is selfish, or because the narcissist, of course, wants our focus to be completely on them, and they are the ones that need to be center of attention and such. So even doing the slightest things like putting on makeup, that can sometimes turn into a battle. They are asking, why are you putting on makeup? Who are you trying to impress, type of thing, and that can be really rough, Sometimes the best answer for anything like that is, I need to do something for myself. Unfortunately, even with that answer, you gotta be prepared for a fight. Sometimes they can just pout, and things like that. And the reason that they pout or get upset with an answer like that is because if you're starting to do things for yourself, they feel like they're losing control of you. And I mean, is that necessarily a bad thing? I have the belief that everything happens for a reason. And so sometimes these fights that spring up are actually coming in for a reason. If anything, just as a learning situation, sometimes it's just to be able to, essentially learn what is going to set them off, what is going to trigger them, and such. And sometimes you just gotta let them pout, and you gotta let them just do what they're going to do, because honestly, control is an illusion. You have no control over anybody else. Sometimes you don't even have control over yourself. Trust me, there have been so many times when I just start crying, and even for just no apparent reason. But there is a reason for it. There is a reason that you do the things that you do. And sometimes, if anything, it's just to unmask the narcissist. And of course, that's going to come with the fight as well. But setting boundaries is one of the best ways to deal with that type of situation. Acknowledging that they are upset and say, I'm sorry that this upset you, but it's something that I feel I need to do. It brings up something that I've heard a long time ago that I firmly believe in. And that's, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Sometimes that something needs to be you. Because you are worth standing up for. You are worth fighting for. Trust me, this took me a long time to learn. And once I started actually doing things for myself, I started really needing to listen to myself and my body and acknowledging the things that I was feeling, even if it seemed a little bit weird. There's one thing that I have to remind myself of a lot, and that is your feelings are your feelings, and they're not up for debate. And I learned about that in therapy, and it really helps just to be able to identify your feelings. And sometimes it can be kind of weird. We are very complex beings, and so we can have complex emotions. I can love someone and just be so upset with them at the same time. I'm allowed to do that. That's just the way I work, and understanding your emotions is sometimes very hard to do. Just giving yourself that understanding that, I can love somebody and not like them at the same time, so, and a lot of times it requires a lot of introspection, especially when dealing with people that you don't quite agree with. It's kind of one of those, sometimes you have to say, well, this upset me. Well, why did it upset me? And the thing about, the why is that it can actually go very deep. Sometimes we are triggered by certain things that honestly you wouldn't expect to be triggered by. But first, you got to identify the exact emotion that you're feeling. I saw an episode on Lisa Biliu, I believe. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's spelled Bilyu. And she had somebody on there, and I can't remember her name, but she was a therapist, and she was talking about just sitting with those emotions before trying to identify why they're there is very important, because not acknowledging those types of emotions can lead to suppression, and we know from experience, most of us, that suppression of emotions can come back to haunt you really badly. I know mine have quite a bit. After losing my husband, Greg, and my first fiance, Russell, I did try to suppress the emotions. I actually got one time I started crying, and I don't even remember what it was that triggered me, but I actually had somebody say, "It's been a year, Amanda, get over it." And I actually did internalize that. I was just like, it has been a year, but I'm not, over it. And so I actually thought that something might be wrong with me. So I did. I fell down the rabbit hole, per se. I wound up getting into substances that I really shouldn't have. And I suppressed my emotions and kind of lost myself for a while. And it's taken a lot to, get back to the point that I am now. But it taught me that suppressing emotions or trying to numb them will come back to haunt me. Well, at least they came back to haunt me, that's for sure. But, understanding that your feelings are your feelings, and they're not up for debate, because if you try to debate them, mask them, suppress them, or numb them, they do come back eventually. Just as the truth always comes out, so do emotions. So acknowledging them and trying to understand them is one of the first steps. So, well, I thank you again for being here. If you're vibing with me, subscribe, like. I'll see you later. Remember, do something good for yourself. You do deserve it.